Hey, what's up, Big Earl, Northtown Sound? How's it going? You got a Git box. Looky. We got a Git box. This is my friend Michael's guitar. Everyone, repeat after me. Hi, Michael. This is a Cort. Here, Cort acoustic. Asked me to set it up here for him. So, we're going to do some setup. I'm going to rant about Git boxes. And we're going to see what's going on with this puppy. So this is Korean. Serial number. This has some model number down there. I should look this thing up. So, pretty nice acoustic actually. Actually, there's not a heck of a lot wrong with this that you're not going to find wrong in most acoustics. So, spruce top, looks like mahogany back and sides. Bunch of binding and stuff. This is a really nice touch. Grover's. That's a great touch on a guitar like this. Sounds out of tune, but sounds like a dreadnought. So, fairly decent instrument. I'm going to go through this and figure out what I don't like about this guitar and what I do like about this guitar, and figure out what we're going to do to set this bad boy up. Trying to gather my thoughts here. I got Coltrane in the background. It's actually a Watt from Pedro show. And the furnace is rumbling, so bit of noise happening here. Git boxes. I hate these things. To me, an acoustic guitar is either sort of like an effect, or it's kind of a crude precursor of what we can do now. So, or even if we look at D, like this is crude. And I know that's kind of an unpopular opinion, but I don't care, it's my opinion. You don't like it, start your own channel or whatever. So here's what the issue is basically, okay? Acoustic guitars. We build a box out of relatively soft woods, you know, spruce and mahogany and stuff like that. Occasionally, yeah, there's like maple here or rosewood or whatever, but it's usually softer woods. Very thin, very lightweight box that we put a stick on, and then we string them up with a bunch of metal strings that are exerting a force of 250, 300 pounds going that way, and expecting the damn things to work forever. It doesn't work like that. You know, if I play banjo as well, go ahead and make the jokes. I don't care. That comes from the acoustic time. Yeah, there's a few people who like the old tack head banjos where you'd basically take a wood body, put the banjo skin on and put it down with tacks or nails or whatever, and they play those. People still make gourd banjos where they literally take a gourd squash and they tack a head on and put on the neck and strings. But they kind of figured out to put on the hardware so you can adjust stuff and, you know, change the way the woodwork is done on it with laminates so it's extra strong. And then we got these things, which really haven't done too much since C.F. Martin I started playing with these, so they're kind of annoying in that respect. They're kind of crude. And that crudeness kind of bites you on the ass in the end. And this guitar illustrates that beautifully. So let's start with what I don't like about this guitar. This is actually in pretty good nick. The relief is pretty well dead on. The action's just a hair higher than I would like it. But there's an issue with this instrument. Let's head that way. The nut is cut way too low in my opinion. The strings are almost flush with the top on these things. Probably just make the action a little bit better at the first fret. If I take that off, I don't know if it's going to capture this or not. I'm pretty sure that this was done at the dealer that Michael bought this at. I don't think that's factory. So that's much lower than I would like it. Likewise, we head on way down here to the saddle, just light for a second. They shaved that down. They didn't shave it down completely, but that's down lower than I would like to see on an acoustic saddle. And I can tell you exactly why they did that. It's about as perpendicular as I'm going to get it. This neck angle is just a hair shallow on this thing. It should, ooh, look at the big fingers. It should be a little bit more like that. It's just a hair shallow. The bridge itself is a hair tall in relationship to that angle. So the geometry on this body, this is too high, this is too flat. So this break angle isn't correct here. So my guess is, because that geometry was off, the store where Michael got this from decided to shade down the bridge a bit, and this was probably too high, so they decided to slot the nuts deeper in order to make it play a little nicer, right? And it plays okay, it just needs a tiny bit of setup. But here's the problem. That is a lazy way of doing that. What they should have done is shaved a little bit off of here and then slot that a little lower. So we're going to run into a problem in time that we're not going to be able to drop this enough in order to get the action correct at the 12th fret. A lot of people are probably looking at that going, oh, Big Earl, there's plenty there. Well, again, I'm talking to you from Edmonton. This is harsh climate for acoustics, so that adjustability, you know, the more you got there, the happier you're going to be, right? This here, instead of slotting it downward, they should have taken the nut off and shaved the back. There's a lot of really nice sort of binding cuts that are done on here though, so instead of doing that and then having to touch up, they slotted the top. So basically they kind of lazed out in doing this. It's not really lazy, they did a really good job on this, I gotta say. That's beautifully slotted. It's just, it's too low. The geometry of this guitar was out this much. Like literally this neck's maybe 2 degrees too flat. And that's maybe a millimeter too tall. Okay, so they shaved that down, they slotted that deeper to try to make the geometry better on the thing. Over time, what's going to happen is this is going to have to come down even lower, and this is, it's bailing a tiny bit, but it's a 14-year-old guitar. It's actually in pretty good shape that way. But the action's still going to change. This might change over here as this neck changes with time, and our adjustability has gone way down because they did the fast and easy and dirty way of adjusting those two things. Now, if you compare that with these newfangled electronic guitars that they have out now, even the cheapest one is going to have some sort of bridge on it that's going to allow you to adjust your action height a lot easier and a lot better. Your intonation obviously a lot better. Even if you've got a wraparound bridge, that will adjust a lot better than any acoustic bridge will be. And if you're like me and you like bolt-on necks, you're going to be able to deal with any sort of geometry issues that you have in the relationship of the plane of the body with the angle of the neck with the height of the bridge with where the nut is. So you're going to be able to get even the cheapest thing. This was 50 bucks, the first act. Love this thing. You're going to be able to get the geometry right on it. On an acoustic, that's impossible. And it doesn't matter if you spend 100 bucks or 10,000 bucks. You just can't do it. It's always a compromise in setting up an acoustic. Always. And that's what bothers me about this guitar. It's what I dislike the most. Because there was a decision made to adjust this the fast way, I gotta fight adjusting this, which I'm gonna have to do anyways because this is an acoustic. And instead of being able to say, well, this is gonna be good, 10 years time we can adjust things some more, you can't. It's an acoustic, okay? So it's always a compromise. I'm not gonna be able to get this to play the way that I'd like it to play for Michael. And definitely not the way I'd like it to play for myself. That's why I hate acoustics. Hopefully that rant made sense. So this action's a hair high. I don't want to shave the saddle down. There's not enough here. Because this is solid enough. This is going to be around in 50 years. Once Michael and I are gone, somebody's going to be able to play this. It is a little bit on the dry side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to humidify this thing. And we're going to see if that's going to help with the action on this before I go after the saddle. So some of you might be saying, hey, big Earl. Well, if you're bitching about the height of this so much, why don't you take it down? There's two reasons why I'm not going to. Number one is I'm not really allergic to tropical woods. There's a lot of people who get really bad reactions to the dust of ebony and rosewood and all that sort of stuff. I'm not really allergic, but it does bother me. And it's winter. I have to do this inside. And I prefer not to, if I could. The second reason why I'm not going to take it down is it's winter. It's always dry around here. But it's particularly dry right now because the furnaces are running. And this is not the time of year that I'd want to try to shave some wood off of here. Because we're talking about a tiny amount that I would have to shave, probably 0.5 millimeter or so. In summertime, it might only be 0.2 millimeters that I have to take off. So that's a job I'd much rather do in the summer on this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to humidify this thing and then we're going to look at the action. I mean, it's not out that much, but I'm just being picky because I'm allowed to be picky. But the only fault that I can give Cort on this, and I can understand why they were doing this is like some really tiny fret wire on this. There is some height, not a lot though. Again, this is a long-term thing. This is going to wear pretty heavy. The frets themselves are in really nice shape. I think, again, they got a little bit of a touch-up at the store. So I'm going to have to polish those off. Obviously, I got to oil this board. It's dry as hell. Same with that. The relief is close. So we're going to have to see on that once we get new strings on this. This needs new strings, though. I might also change this from... These look like straight bronze. I might change these to phosphorus bronze. We're going to see. I have to check out some string tension issues on this. Michael has a concern that there is a little bit of a bump on the pick guard somewhere over here. It's a glue bump, basically. That's what's happening on it. So, but yeah. So that's what I don't like, and that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to humidify this guitar, do up the frets a little bit just to get some grime off of them, oil the board, oil whatever needs to be oiled here, and then go from there. Now, what do I like about this guitar? Okay, it's got Grovers. I like that a lot. Nice feeling neck. Use some good wood on this, I gotta say. The sides and the top are nice and perpendicular to each other. So that bit of geometry between those two is dead on. The neck's a hair shallow, like I said, but multi-$1,000 guitars are like that. Everything's built well and it's in really nice shape. Here's a couple of tips for when you're looking at an acoustic guitar. When you're buying an acoustic, especially an older acoustic, always just feel where the joints are on the body, where the sides meet the binding, or especially if the guitar doesn't have binding on the back. That's going to tell you if anything's loose on the thing. One thing I've noticed on this is that this I can feel where the side down here is a little bit on the dry side. It shrunk away from the binding because the wood will swell and contract. The binding generally doesn't. So I can tell from feeling here that it needs a little bit of humidifying. Asian guitars, I tend to find you get more information from the back, domestic from the top. That's what I've just found over the years. Feel the butt end, and like here again, I can feel that it needs some humidity. Feel out the neck end. Feel out the rosette, and this is where you can tell a lot, because I'm finding right here, even just feeling around the wood here, this is quite dry. It's not hyper light, but it does need some humidity in here. People will show you, take the old business card, hey, it's one of mine, and go around the bridge. Everybody knows that one. That's not going underneath, that's just a shadow there. But one place where you do need to check is on the neck itself to see if it'll fit in there. Especially domestic guitars, I find that really kind of helps. And also do the guard to see if the guard's lifting on things. So right there, there's a little gimme that's in there. I don't think it's going to affect things. That's kind of where that bump is. I think that's just some glue flow in there. So. It's a shiny guard. Holy, there's D. You see, there's my card. You can read it. Hate shininess on guitars. So that's something else you want to check on an acoustic. Yeah. If I touch the back strip, you can feel there's definitely a height difference. This needs some humidity. If I can find some place where there's no glare, they actually book match this pretty nice. Nice mahogany that they used on this. Michael was telling me when he bought this thing that store he got it from advertised it as their least expensive all solid wood instrument. Okay, I'm one of those people, once you played enough gear you realize wood doesn't make a huge difference on electrics. On acoustics it makes a little more difference. A little more difference. And I've played plenty of ply acoustics that sound great and plenty of solid wood acoustics that sound like ass. It's much more about the geometry and the quality of the build. And this is really nice quality on here. Anybody who likes to disagree with that and saying plywood doesn't belong on acoustics, do me a favor. Google Taylor, even though I don't like his acoustics. He's actually got a thing on his website where he's answering a question regarding laminates, and he says, and I quote, "It doesn't make much of a difference." I think he knows. If you know any jazz guys, ask them about ES-175s, which have always been laminated instruments that always sound great. Actually, I got another example for you. Unfortunately, she's a wall hanging now because she needs a neck reset. You don't do neck resets on these things. Anybody who's ever owned a Harmony archtop will tell you these things tone for decades. They're incredible sounding guitars and they're plywood. Funny how that works. So, ply argument doesn't hold. Screw ya. Here's another great place for the business card trick is around the tuners. Everything's fine on this. So this is built very, very well. Very, very well. You got a good axe, Michael. Very good axe. So we're going to start off by humidifying it a bit. And I'm doing it old school because that's what I believe in. I'm old school when it comes to humidifying acoustics. I put water in. Humidifiers are great after the fact. But when you're doing this, just some water and something. That's actually a paint lid. Got that from Davey4557. Thanks, buddy. I usually use ramekins, but that'll work good. And then I'm just going to put a cover on here. One place where I did disagree with him, though, so I just use a loose piece of paper. If I can figure out the side I didn't cut on. There we go. And I'm not going to tape it or nothing. Again, the furnace is going to be kicking in. It's dry time. I want the water to go into the wood and any excess through the paper or onto the paper. as opposed to the water going into the wood and then the dryness of my house with the furnace running, sucking the water back out. So I'm just going to string this up to pitch, leave it for a couple of days, and then we'll see what we're going to deal with. So while I'm waiting for Michael's guitar to humidify, I wanted to do some electronic work on Magpie. So this fretboard was oiled a year ago, and you see how dry it's gotten since? This is what I mean. The prairies are harsh on guitars. Yeesh.